Professor Shafiq wants to know if the concept of decolonization is not an attempt to turn the wheel of time back. Sometimes it seems that the concept of decolonization is connected closely with the return of other imperialism, with the hegemony of alternate powers, sometime in the form of majoritarian dictatorship in democracy. What do you think?
No worries. Yeah, I was just reading the question again. So I can put in a link to my thesis in the chat as well. So as mentioned, I was looking at Zia-ul-Haq specifically, his Islamization of Pakistan. I think that's a good example of some. So I was just saying specifically in the context of India. That so it's claiming to be engaged in the decolonization process, but if you look at the way it treats, say, journalists or political opposition, it can sometimes use this concept of the colonial mindset to deflect from legitimate criticism. So a good example was how the BBC produced that documentary on the Gujarat situation in 2002, in which Modi was said to be complicit in these communal riots. And the government then used the name of it's just the British and the colonial mindset that, has kind of led to these allegations. So that's a good example of how it can be used to deflect. And I'd say the way in which Modi's government has stifled freedom of speech and also criticism, legitimate criticism from activists and journalists, particularly in the context of Jammu and Kashmir, how he's used colonial era laws in order to repress opposition to his government, is also a good example of the misuse of this name of decolonization. And I compare in an article what Zia did and what we've done over the last kind of 10 years. So it's a really good point, and this is why I think it has to be a really careful process, and why scholars working on decolonization have to be clear to set the parameters of decolonization from the beginning. But ultimately, as I say, I think it is meant to be about fighting injustice. So as long as we're conscious of when it's actually decolonization and when it's just being used for some ulterior motives. But that's a really good question. Thank you.